Hello students. Today in this lecture I will be talking about human development and the various concepts of human development, the span of human development, the theories of human development. Now in this one lecture I'll be just speaking on the basic stuff that we have to study in this paper, that is human development. This paper is relevant for BA final year paper 2, that is unit 1 of paper 2, and for MA 4th semester paper 1 unit 1. Now let's come to the subject matter of this topic of this paper, that is human development, and let's zero down on the word development. Well, development, as we all know, is developing. That means somewhere or the other it means changing for the better. Now, or changing rather. It can be negative development also. So we should focus on the word changing here or change here. And it's a very, when we talk of human development, it's a very, very scientific study. It's a scientific study because there are yardsticks which has been made after studying huge amount of people or sample, and these the averages that we get are extremely scientific and they are used as a measure for further studies. So when we talk of human development, that means this development can be of two types. It can be a qualitative development and a quantitative development. So when we say the person's understanding is very good, his intelligence is very good, he speaks very well, language is very well developed, can we measure these in terms of numbers? I don't think so. These are theoretical concepts which has explanations, which is worded, written. So these are the qualitative development in a person. But when we talk of height of a person or weight of a person or an IQ of a person, it becomes a quantitative measure of development. Now when we talk of intelligence and we say he's a highly intelligent person, we are just describing it with some words. That is qualitative development. But when we make the quantitative aspect of that intelligence level and we say the intelligence is 110, the IQ is 110, that then it becomes a quantitative measure of intelligence. So what is the importance of human development? Why do we need to study human development? Why? Now, if we have to explain a mother that whether the child is above average or the child is below average as compared to children of the same age group as that child, we need to know the averages. We need to know the you can say you have to have a yardstick with which to measure a child who comes to the doctor or comes to a psychologist. So the study of human development explains the why a behavior happens as it happens. Second point, we are able to predict behavior, why he is behaving in that manner. Now, if the behavior is not up to the mark, we try to make the behavior optimum. We try to optimize the behavior, make it the best behavior, where again we need to go in for counseling or whatever measures. Then the last aspect of the study of human development is to modify behavior. Now, when we study human development, we are studying the various levels of development and what is the lowest level of that particular age group and the highest level of that particular age group and the average level. So that when another person is come, he is measured by these averages to see whether he is in the lower category or the higher category. So that is the reason why we study human development. And then when we come to know your level, we try to find out why that behavior is like that. That means we try to find out the reason for that lacuna or for reason for the lack of the average level or below average level. We try to predict behavior for future, that okay, if you are like this now, you will be like that. So any improvement needs to be done, has to be done, and then modify the behavior. Now, when we talk of the various aspects of human development, now what do we study in human development? The first primary thing that comes to our mind is that anybody, if I ask you, will say the physical development. But natural, whether your height is proper. Now, when a child is born and we take the child to the pediatrician, he will be measuring the skull frame of the outer surface of the skull to see whether you have hydrocephaly or you have a big head or there is some waterlogging in the brain or it's a shrunken brain. So this is what is seen, and then we can assume whether the child is a normal child or the child is a retarded child. So that is an yardstick, right? And that is a measure of physical aspect. Then the height. Suppose a child is, say, 3-year-old, he should be having a 3.5 feet height. If he is more than that or less than that, how do we know? Because we know the averages. And when we know the averages, we say, no, your child is below his the standard of his age. So he needs to eat some more protein, some good diet so that he picks up on his height. The same thing goes for weight. Okay, so the physical development is one of the studies that we do in human development. Other things that we study are social development, how good you are with the society, whether you have a problem with adjustment with the society, and so on and so forth. Then we have cognitive development, that means the development of the understanding process, the intelligence level, the perceptions, the reasoning power, thinking, these all come under the cognitive development. Then we have the personality development. We have emotional developments. So all these aspects come, they are the various aspects of human development. Then when we talk of the period of development, definitely a period starts from the day a fetus is there in the mother's womb till the last day a person takes a breath, the last breath. So this entire span is under the purview of human development. We study right from the prenatal stage to the old age and till death. That means we have the prenatal, then we have the infancy, we have early childhood, we have adolescent, then the middle ages come, late adulthood, and then the old age or the geriatric period, and the last day. Again, I would say we are psychologists only because of one thing, that is every person is unique, and because of the individual differences. This individual differences is a prime factor why human development is studied, because this individual differences make every person differ from the other. Therefore, we have the averages to see how good you are or how bad you are, or whether you're in the average category or in the higher category or whatever. So the lifeline of this study is individual differences. Now, when we have to study human development, we will study human development from two aspects of studies are there. One is the longitudinal aspect and one is the cross-sectional aspect. Now, let's see what they are. Now, the longitudinal aspect is that if there's a small child and you have to study this child or a group of children till they are adolescent, and you see the changes from one stage to other, that is the changes from infancy to early childhood to middle childhood to adolescent. If you have to study, that means you're following that child or a group of children for next 20 years. The same sample is studied and the changes of that same sample will be noted, and you very authentically are studying human development, because you are actually seeing a child develop from a child to an adolescent or an adolescent to an adult. So that means you are walking along with the child, you are noting the changes, you are noting the I would say the positivity in the growth or the negativity in the growth, and then you judge whether what is happening is good or bad. And then you try and give the, you can give the suggestions that these are things need to be improved upon. So in the longitudinal study, it is more sensitive because you are with the group for a long period. You are focusing individually on every person, and you are actually paying attention to the curves, that is the changes happening from one stage to the other, because you are with the sample all the time. Whereas when you study a cross-sectional method of study, if you adopt a cross-sectional method of study, what we do is, if we have to study from the stage of infancy to adolescent, we take a group of infants, we take a group of early childhood, we take a group of sample of middle childhood, we take a group of adolescent at the same time. That means we have 50 infants, 50 early childhood children, 50 middle childhood children, 50 adolescent children, and then we see their behavior of these 4-5 groups separately, and then we see how they behave, how they react, and then we conclude that this age is this type, this age has this characteristics, this age has these characteristics, and we see how the changes are taking place. Or we see what are the difference between the various age groups. So this is cross-sectional, where at one point of time we have all the cross sections of the society which we have to study, and we study all at one point of time, and then we see the differences. So what is the method that one should adopt? Now it depends on the money that you have, depends on the cost effectiveness, depends on the time that you have, and on the basis of that you decide which method to adopt. Longitudinal method is, as I told you, more sensitive. It focuses more on individuals in a very I would say diligent manner. Very minutely study is done. But whereas when you are doing a cross-sectional studies, you are not able to study the crossover from one stage to another, because you are getting people who are already in those stages. So you are just comparing the behavior of the two stages. You're not able to see the crossover, the change from one stage to the other. But it's a very cost-effective method. It does not take time. It does not take years, because another lacuna of longitudinal method is, over the years you may lose out on the sample. Some people may have moved away, right? And or some people after they grow up, they don't want to be a participant in your research. So there can be, for various reasons, the same sample does not continue. Okay, so this is one reason why longitudinal method is not possible. But then all the researchers who have written books on human development, they have studied longitudinal method. It is definitely the better method, but a very tedious method. Okay, now let's talk of the influences that we have on human development. What influences human development? Now, there's nothing much to say. You all know that there can be two major influences. One influence will be the hereditary factor. If my parents are short, I will be short. If my parents are tall, I may be tall, right? The hereditary factor. A musician's child may be a musician because he has those genes which gives him that quality in his voice, right? But then you have the external factor, that is the environment. So it is basically the question of the cooperation and conflict of nurture and nature, environment with hereditary. So in this we will say that we have two types of scientifically two types have been focused upon. One is the normative influence and one is the non-normative influence. Now let's see what is normative influence. Now normative influence, when we talk about normative influence, it is just focus on the word normative, that is norm. Norm means average, norm means normal, norm means which is common for all. So we can conclude by this word that normative influence, basically it is the influences of say age, influence of biological influences. So that means this will be common for everyone. it is said that by 6 months or 5 months you should be teething. It is an age old. So if a person does not teeth by say 1 year, we'll say he's late in teething. You are supposed to hold and stand by the time you are 1 year old. But there are many people who run by the time they're 1 year old. There are many people who don't even walk or stand by the time they're 1 year old. So there are some parameters which are age old, and which is because of age the development happens, and that is normative development. We have the biological influences which are normative development, like say the puberty. It should come at this particular age. Menopause, it should come at this particular age. Formal education should start at age 3, or formal school you go to at age 5. Retirement is at 58 or 60 or 65 depending. So what I'm trying to tell you is that these changes, these developments are normative because they are age bound, they are common for everyone. Now let's come to the second aspect, that is non-normative. Now non-normative is something which happens to one particular person but not to the others. For example, like illness, a death in the family, or some abnormality. That means they are specific to someone, and that affects his human development, or that affects his development. So any influence that a person has can be a normative or a non-normative influence on his development. Now let's come to the ecological approach to human development, to the study of human development. And this ecological approach is, there was a famous human development researcher called Yuri Born Fenbrenner. Yuri Born Fenbrenner, and he says that there are 4 levels of ecological approach, and they are the microsystem, they are the mesosystem, the exosystem, and the macrosystem. And he says that these 4 levels are the most, I would say, they start from the most intimate level of influence that a person has to the most global level of influence that a person has. From the intimate can be the home, and global may be the country or the world, right? So this is ecological approach, and I'll start with the microsystem. Now microsystem, as I said, is the most intimate or the most smallest version of the ecological approach, and which talks about home, it talks about school, it talks about office, work, relationship with the caregivers, classmate, the teacher's attitude towards the child, how the teacher behaves with the children, how the father talks to the mother. So all these impact in a very small level, where you are touching each other in a very, very personal manner. That is what is the microsystem. And this microsystem, I would say the subsidiaries of microsystem, they have a huge impact on the human development, on the development of that person who is under the influence of that particular microsystem. So in microsystem, what did I tell you? I told you that it is the smallest or the most intimate impact on the human being, and it is, I would say, from the ecological approach it is studied, that is the influence of the outside world. And here the home, the school, the relationship with the primary caregivers, relationship with the teachers, that means the teachers who are dealing directly with you, right? How, when your father comes back from office, how he talks to you, whether he's angry, his defense mechanisms, how he's reacting. So all these things definitely impact the cognitive development, maybe the physical development of a child or of a person, and that is under the microsystem. Let's talk about the second system, that is the mesosystem. Now mesosystem is very, very interesting. It is the interlocking of 2 microsystems. Interlocking of 2 microsystems. For example, home and school, or for example, home and work, For example, work and society. Now let me give you some examples in it. Suppose it is home and school. Now, how does home and school impact each other? Home, you are in the microsystem. You are in touch with your parents. You are in touch with your siblings. In school, in the microsystem, impact of microsystem, you have your teachers. You have your peer group. So, how do this impact the other? For example, if there's a young child in the family, I go to school. I'm in class 2, and then my parents have a younger child. They are not able to give me that much attention. I go to school not as tidy as I used to go earlier. I go to school maybe with an incomplete homework, or I go to school without my tiffin box. My pencil box is not proper. Pencils are not sharpened. So these small things were taken care of by my parents earlier, but now because of the younger sibling, they are not able to give me that kind of attention. So it is impacting my academic. This is what is the meso system, interlocking of two systems. Father goes to office. He has some problem with his boss, comes back home and talks loudly or in a harsh manner with the other family members. It is again, I would say, meso system. So this kind of thing, it can be home and work, it can be parents and office, it can be work and society. So two systems, when they are interlocking or when they are impacting each other. Let's talk of the third system, that is the exosystem or the ecosystem. Now in the ecosystem, it's a larger environmental institutions like the school authorities, the school rules, the school regulations, the discipline. So the discipline or the authority or the management, they don't deal with it directly. Your teacher deals with it directly. So they are the environment to which you go. The church, the temple, media, what the media tells you. You watch the TV, see the soaps or the daily the serials that come on TV. How horrendous they are in terms of gender attitude, in terms of dressing sense, how loud they are, superstitious. So does that impact your thought process? In a younger child, it may. If it does, it is the impact of the exosystem under which the television also comes. So they are the larger impact of a larger media, of a larger agency. The fourth is the macro system. Now the macro system is the widest range. Micro is the smallest, macro is the largest or the widest range. You have the cultural pattern of the country, the governance of the country, whether it is a dictator country or a democratic country, the education policy of the country, the reservation policies of a country, the economic policies of a country, all these things, that means a larger system. Definitely they are impacting your cognition. They are impacting your physical developments. They are impacting the social development. You are the minority community. What does the government give you? You are a tribal community. What does the government think about you? It impacts you. It impacts the entire psychology. It impacts the human development. It impacts because the impact on cognition and the thought process is a huge part of human development. So when we talk of these ecological aspects of human development, we talk of these 4 levels of impact that we have, from the minutest to the macro system, and they all have a huge effect on how a person is developed and why he develops. And if he is not developing, we find out the reason of not developing so that we can improve on it and make the human development a normal development. Well, this is what is a general perspective of human development. And I would say, when the questions come, the questions are very direct. Questions can be What do you mean by human development? What are the various aspects of human development? What are the ecological factors in human development? Or there are questions which generally comes is, please, what is human development? Explain the longitudinal and the cross-sectional aspects of human development. So these are the important questions which come in this primary topic of human development. Thank you.